Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap. As you can hear, I have no voice. It's from excitement. It's from the Bears win. And like we said on the pregame show, we got a little bit of everything. We got a bunch of turnovers, quite a few sacks, touchdowns from Montgomery and from Mooney. And while the offense didn't look as good as we thought it did, like we still were able to score 29 points. And I believe before on the pregame show, we were saying like, the Bears need to score more than they've scored at any point this season, just like for the hell of it. 1 point short, but nonetheless, they find a way to win a game. And boys, I know you see it in my name. We are going streaking, heading into the final week of the season with a chance to win the last 3 games. Joey, I'll start with you. What are your biggest takeaways from this game?
Defense. Robert Quinn, single sack. Well, Bears single sack record, Robert Quinn. That's his name now. He had a chance to get it like 500 times in the game and then actually got it towards the end. But
it was a strip sack too.
Strip sack and a beauty. This dude, man, every week, it's not just like he didn't have like a Chandler Jones game at the beginning of the season where he had like 5 sacks, 6 sacks, or whatever it was. This dude gets a sack pretty much every week but 2 games this season, and he's been unreal, and it's well-deserved. Obviously, like we talked about off air, we probably wish for more offense than we actually got, but when your defense is playing like that and they set you up and put you in good positions to win the game, it's hard not to love what you see because at the end of the day, man, it's a Bears W, and like you said, we're going streaking.
Wait, Joey, did they cash your over, or do they have to win next week?
I forgot about that. No, it's cash, baby. That's
go.
6.
There we go.
5.5.
And like honestly, just stop the count at 6-10. Like we're good. The record with the 16 games looks a lot better than what it's about to look like when it's 6-11, or if we go 7-10. Everyone said that before the season. But Ron, for you, another win. I know you weren't with us on the pregame show, but we pretty much accomplished everything we set out they would accomplish. Like they scored, they had turnovers. Mike Glennon looked like a statue, like all of the above.
Absolutely. You got to be proud of what the defense did today. I know there's people that be like, well, it's the Giants. Still, you still got to show up and play football. Like the defense balled out today. And I think that's something that we've, as Bears fans, have all been craving all season long. It's just like seeing the defense play like we know the defense can play. And they did that today. And they accomplished that. Like you said, turnovers. I mean, fuck. Travis Gibson was a nightmare today for Mike Glennon.
I think he had 2 sacks.
2, and they're both strip sacks.
Yeah.
And like Robert Quinn gets a strip sack, to break the record and capture sole place in franchise history for a single season, breaking Richard Dent's record. And Richard Dent's a Hall of Famer, boy, so that's got to tell you something. So I mean, it was a great day. And if you read on Twitter and our friend Duke. Also noting that Roquan Smith today broke the single season tackles record for Bears history. 157.
It was a record-breaking day.
It was a record-breaking day, and I'll tell you what, we are streaking. There's 2 people that are streaking today: the Chicago Bears and Antonio Brown. So it's a pretty good Sunday for the NFL so far today, boys.
Yes, and for those of you that didn't see, Antonio Brown went full Eric Cartman, said, screw you guys, I'm going home. And before we started, I actually showed the boys a picture of what Antonio – because I said before we started, I'm like, I wonder what Antonio Brown's doing right now, like right this minute. And I log on to Twitter, and I see him standing like outside the facility with his suitcase waiting for a ride. So, yeah, wild day in the NFL. But one thing that I thought was kind of funny is like, if you look at the game for what it is, the Bears won this game less than a minute into the game. They score a touchdown 12 seconds in off the Mike Glennon fumble, ultimately with a David Montgomery touchdown. And then, the Giants don't score a touchdown all day. And honestly, like, I want to say they had 1 or 2 drives where they were threatening, and that was it. Like, other than that, the defense controlled the tempo. They controlled the line of scrimmage. Saquon Barkley is going to get Saquon yards where it's like, he just is hard. He's hard to tackle. You can't really get him down. So he's going to get those, those extra rough yards. But they did a good job bottling him up, and we didn't even see Jake Fromm today. I mean, what was the point to bring Jake Fromm in towards the end of that game with how bad it was going? I mean, they were just running the ball. They wanted that game to be over with, and then Dalton throws a pick, a whole bunch of weird shit happened in the third and fourth quarters. But it was a game that, as we love to say, was never in doubt. And for our Chicago Bears, that's the first time we've had that all season. I mean, even the first game against the Lions, you think, we're going to blow these dudes out, and then the Lions make a little bit of a run. But this was that game where we were able to sit back, enjoy, watch some of the guys that we've talked about. We want to see them play well down the stretch. The young guys like Travis Gibson play well. And even some of the older guys like Akeem Hicks. I know he wasn't in a lot today, but you saw good things from Akeem Hicks as well. And I don't know what the future holds, but if we get Fields in week 17, I'd like to see a good game out of him and a battle with either Kirk Cousins or Kellen Mond. But right now, it was originally what you sent as the link, Ron, for the StreamYard, but the biggest news that we have probably broken all year is it's official. Matt Nagy will be fired after week 18. It was confirmed by Ian Rappaport, who is one of the highest, in NFL sources as far as everybody says they have sources. Ian Rappaport is the source to your source, if that makes sense. And the way it works out is the Bears will start their search. They probably already started it, to be honest. They've probably been searching more on the low key because you don't want tampering. But the time is now. You need to build a team around Justin Fields, and you need to build a winner in Chicago. And I think we have great young pieces in place. We need to capitalize on the draft despite not having a first rounder. But there's a lot to look forward to as opposed to, every week when we get on here, we're just like, yeah, Matt Nagy is still our coach, and we are a bad football team.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually going to Presbyterian now. So, finally, you can go get freezer burn over there. I don't know. I mean, it's just great, man. To put to bed to any idea that people still had that he was going to get kept around if the Bears went on this winning streak. We're going streaking like AB now. It's fine. It just makes the win that much sweeter because it's we can win and we don't have that weight hanging over our shoulder. I don't know who was still thinking that he was going to be coached at the end of the season after all this, but for anybody that did think that, it's just breathe easy. You can relax now. Everything's fine. We can go ahead and win this last game of the season and feel fine.
Matt Nagy is the top of a can of sardines. We just peeled his lid back, his freezer burn dome.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it does give, I think, just a lot of, I guess, closure too on the season because it's okay, we finally know that Nagy's truly going to be gone. But I mean, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole here, that also opens up a whole other can of worms with what's Ryan Pace's future.
Exactly.
I'm
glad you brought that up.
Because one of the few intelligent things I feel like Jay Feely said on the broadcast today for anybody that watched at home, aside from every time the Giants drop back, something bad happens, because that was 100% true. Literally, he even said, he's how do you, as one of these organizations, because they were talking about firing Dave Gettleman too for the Giants. They said, they were how do you as an organization fire one and not the other? Because that's an awkward situation for the coach having to work under a general manager that you were not picked by, and kind of vice versa. It's awkward as a general manager, you getting another coach when you've already gone through two coaches in however many years, and it hasn't clearly worked out. So it really feels like it has to be both, right? That's kind of at least where I'm at now, where it's hey, you heard all the rumors. There's been reports that the Bears wanted Dan Quinn, Ryan Pace wanted Dan Quinn, and then he was convinced to hire John Fox, whatever. So they finally gave him, full reign and said, here is your coach that you get to pick. He picks Nagy. Obviously a good players guy. Sounds like an incredibly nice dude as well. I have no ill will toward Matt Nagy as the human being. But he just didn't work out as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. It is what it is. We'll call a spade a spade. Now is the time to fully clean house, bring in a hopeful breath of fresh air into this organization. But even then, and tell me if I'm wrong, the two of you, because you guys are just as big a Bears fans as I am. I don't feel good about this coaching search and GM search coming up because I don't trust the people above them to make the right decision. This has been the everlasting notion. Honestly, the Bears haven't had an even remotely quality coach since Lovie Smith, in my opinion, as a head coach. And then you take that a step further and look at general managers. Like, I mean, even freaking what's the frick's his face who used to love trading first round picks and accumulate later round picks. I don't even remember his name. It's gonna kill me too until I remember.
Was it Angelo? Was it Jerry Angelo?
It was Jerry Angelo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, even like
shit.
I mean, even then, like, how can we all kind of sit here and be like, yeah, they're going to get the GM right. Yeah, they're going to get the coach right. Because they haven't for 20 plus years. In my existence as a Bears fan, I don't know what it's like to see the Bears win a championship. You got all these boomers out here who saw the 85 team and saw those great runs in the late 80s. And, you know, even starting to teeter into the early 90s before a lot of those guys fully retired. Like, they were like, oh, yeah, you know, it was great to be a Bears fan. I bet it fucking was. But guess what? I was born in 1995 when I was supposed to be convinced of those terrible 90s Bears teams that this team was worth a shit. I haven't seen it. And I really have a bad feeling that I probably will turn 30. I might be 30 with kids by the time the Bears are actually good again. And that scares the shit out of me because I don't trust this organization to make the right decision.
And then you're going to be getting hosed on tickets because you got like +2. Right. And you know, we know Ron Double Dong. Like, we know you couple kids, couple hot dogs, couple pops, couple beers. Like, that's going to be an expensive trip for Ron and the fam.
Couple of 2-3 pops, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But
adult pops, yeah.
What I want to see, like, and what we saw at length today from the defense, whether it was, you know, the young guys or the older guys, they played way above like what we even thought. Like, I thought, you know, maybe the Giants will get like a pity touchdown or like some weak shit. Like, dude, they essentially pitched a shutout. Like, when your team loses and only has 3 points, that's a sad field goal. Like, sad field goal, just don't want to get shut out. And Joe Judge is another coach that's probably on the hot seat, but I feel that to go in and win that big with like Andy Dalton as your quarterback, who I know you guys probably saw the video of Dalton and Foles having a nice little laugh in the second quarter, I think it was. I want to know what that conversation was. I'm very curious to see what that was, but it was a relaxed mood. There was no sweat. The fans looked like they were having fun. Records were broken, and I honestly have no complaints from today's game.
I hate to break it to you guys. Our friend Lap does have a little complaint here, and kind of tailing off of what I said, but he said he is in his 30s with no kids, and the Bears still suck. His life as a Bear has been endless pain, and it really has. But you know, like they always say, right? Like, you can have a gashing wound and you can cover it up a little bit with a Band-Aid for the temporary time. I feel like that's what today's win gives Bears fans. Because, hey, look, like you said, you literally just nailed it. Like, it was a blowout win. They controlled the entire game literally from the start. We said before we jumped on, 12 seconds into the game was when the first touchdown was scored officially?
Yeah.
Like, they had control of the whole game start to end. Like, this was the one Bears game I think that every fan wanted this year, just to be like, son of a bitch, they can play football. They can be a good team. We finally got to see it.
Yeah, no, I have no complaints on that front. And I don't know what they said regarding who's going to be starting next week, but like, it was just it's strange to see. And like, we'll all sit back and laugh on this in 20 years that we had a roster with Andy Dalton, who is a multiple Pro Bowl, quarterback. Multiple times he's made the Pro Bowl. We had Nick Foles, who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. We had Justin Fields, who was arguably a top 3 quarterback in Ohio State history, all on the roster at the same time. And we will only finish the season with 6 or 7 wins. And then, like, we'll just sit back and just remember, we'll remember the podcast, remember all that stuff. But it's mind-blowing shit. Obviously, Justin Fields hasn't proven anything in this league. Andy Dalton's on the downside of his career, and so is Nick Foles. But it's just an anomaly to see how bad it truly has gotten. And I guess it had to, we had to hit rock bottom as Bears fans before we could get back on top because, like you said, Ron, Bears haven't been on top since 1985, and none of us were born for that. That is approaching 40 years almost at this point. And the Bears, as we've said on this show before, are good for nothing more than just like a one-off season. They always just have that one season where they're able to make the playoffs or they're able to go on a run. And it's like, as Bears fans, we want to see some form of consistency. And I am totally sorry for sounding like a middle school gym teacher that's just like screaming at the kids, but I I died yesterday as a
You
human
got a
being.
little like wetness underneath your armpits right now too, just like
Yeah, just
with the pit
sweating.
stains too.
I died a little bit as a human being yesterday watching my other team, Notre Dame. But as a Bears fan, like Alap said, wash, rinse, and repeat. It is pain, but right now is the time to just get behind this team, rally behind the young guys, and when we get that new head coach, regardless of if he's a Chiefs descendant or if he is bald and wears a visor, let's at least rally behind him until he gives us a reason not to, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, Bdon, like, we were talking about what teams have we been able to get up for. I mean, like these one-off seasons and stuff, like Lap pointed out too in the comments. It's like, dude, the biggest memory, that video was just circulating too on Twitter with the Devin Hester run back, the right off the bat in the Super Bowl, right? The return for a touchdown with all the Hall of Fame stuff going on. That's like the highlight of our Bears fandom to this point. Like, we got to see that in a Super Bowl, and
Dude,
that was
in the end zone. I was in the end zone that he ran it back to. It was probably the best moment of my life, dude. I had no business being at that Super Bowl because I was in like 7th grade, but
that is incredible.
That's something. I mean, dude, me as the you guys know who I am. Like, I was tweeting at Oklahoma State football yesterday, and I honestly don't think they scored a touchdown for the rest of the game. Notre Dame speaking. So I am a very in your face, and I'm a sore loser and a sore winner. I'm just a piece of shit at heart. And even at like 13, me and my brother were like jumping up and down, and it's like, the one thing that I would say that would be my Hall of Fame case for Devin Hester is every single time that guy got his hands on the football, anything could happen. Even late in his career, when he was with the Falcons and when he was with the Ravens and when he was bouncing around, anything could happen. And I know there isn't really I don't think there's any returners in the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong, but if there was one guy that had to be the first one, it had to be him.
Yeah. He literally set records. He has to be. I mean, I know, we're talking more about the game and stuff that happened today, but
you brought up Hester. I think that's a relevant point right now.
No, it's 100%.
Well, and we just got news the other day too that he's a finalist for the Hall of Fame. So I think that's completely worthy.
And that's kind of why I thought about it, because I saw that video and I'm like, man, just thinking about when have we had something to really get up for, actually have hope? It was probably that season, right? So it's but now when you mention it, I mean, yeah, dude, he literally, every time he touched the ball, he had a shot and he would make something happen. If he didn't score a touchdown, he would pick up a ton of yards. If he didn't get the ball, it's because the teams avoided him and they gave the Bears great field position. We have not had an impact player like that. We have had some impact players on offense, but it hasn't been surrounded by enough impact players. So it's that season, obviously, just going back to that season, just didn't have enough offensively all around. Yeah. But I don't know, man. And
he would be incredible in the he'd be incredible in the bubble screens and bullshit offense because just get him the ball. But yeah, we lost.
But they wouldn't even take any deep shots with them too, with that speed, and that's what would piss me off too. Because
I used to just massacre people with him in Madden. I would just have him run back the kicks, and then he'd be like wide receiver 1.
Yeah, then just run a straight route every single time and just run over the top. Well, the one year in Madden, I remember they gave him 100 speed, and it was the first ever player to get 100 speed.
He may be the only to ever have 100 speed, I think.
So, I remember that because I remember distinctly being ooh, and he's a receiver now? Cool, I'm going to throw him out there. You're going to run a fucking streak every single play, and I'm just throwing it over the top because there's not a corner in the NFL that can keep up with you.
So. By the way, RIP to John Madden. We haven't brought that up on the podcast at all.
So a couple things. So 3 actually. These type of things come in 3s, and we'll start at the top with John Madden, obviously. So we'll go because to call a spade, Joey. I know you said we're trying to talk about the game. As football guys, there's only so much that you can take away from an absolute beatdown. You know what I'm saying? On either side, even as people that are covering the game, but. Football, we are a football podcast at heart, and football lost three count them, of their I wouldn't say like founding members, but like very important members in the community of football. John Madden could be considered like a founding father of football. He's definitely on like the Mount Rushmore of football personalities and coaches and broadcasters. And then obviously on the Bears side, we lost Jeff Dickerson. I saw a great statement from Matt Nagy, which we never give Nagy praise, but the statement that I saw from Nagy was very touching and heartwarming. And then too, I even saw that his spot in the press box was roped off or set aside, and there was pictures of him and his family, and they even gave him his game notes and all of his stuff just like he would be there. So I thought, as someone who I hold on to that stuff, as someone that never thought I'd be in a press box, I hold on to all of that stuff. I thought that was pretty cool as well. We lost him. And then the third one we lost yesterday, former Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Reeves. So a very, very tough week for football fans. But I think just to, I guess you would say, shed some light, we'll start with John Madden. Joey, for you, what's your favorite John Madden memory or just favorite thing about John Madden?
I mean, I don't know. That's so tough. Like everything. Can I say that? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess like honestly, it's not just the video games and stuff. I mean, I grew up obviously listening to him, watching the games between him and between
Al Michaels.
Al Michaels. No, and is that my phone? Hold on one second. Oh, it's not my phone. Somebody's phone's going off. Anyways, and I apologize because that's not the right time for that at all.
Read the room.
Huh?
I said read the room.
Read the room, phone. God damn it, who's calling me? But no, between him and Pat Summerall, obviously Pat Summerall, he always struck me as like a super monotone announcer, and like at times I didn't really like him as a kid because he had that monotone like and first down Cowboys, like, so I didn't really like that as much. But John Madden brought the life to the broadcast, and now looking back on it now at 31 years old, I can sit here and have more of an appreciation even for Pat Summerall, because I saw I can see now how well they actually work together, and just everything about Madden, between the video games, his coaching, when the boom, tough acting, the commercials and stuff, like all that stuff. You got the video, the videos obviously that's been shared around, been viral now about the Gatorade cooler, the baby cooler with the Papa cooler, and all that stuff. I mean, Madden was just so classic, and he is football in every sense of the word. Like it's legendary stuff. And between Dan Reeves too. I mean, I remember watching those Falcons teams that he was coaching.
Though that was the Michael Vick era, and a little bit before that too.
I was gonna say, wasn't he there for the Dirty Bird Falcons?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
In 98?
Yeah, because it was like the Chris Chandler. I think he took It was a Chris Chandler team to the Super Bowl, right?
Or to the NFC title game at least. Or no, to the Super Bowl, because they played the Broncos. They played the Broncos. Yeah.
I think Elway took him out, right? Yeah. So
that was the second Elway Super Bowl. Yeah.
But like, man, and then Jeff Dickerson too, man. What a freaking legend in this town as far as reporters go. It's really sad, dude. Like I know, like you said, things come in threes, and that is always how it seems. I mean, if I get a flat tire, not comparing this to that, but like if I get a flat tire, I've got a radiator that goes out. I've got
the car radio, or like the heat goes out. Yeah, something.
It's always something in threes. So, and that's the devil, in my opinion. I'm not trying to get too preachy, whatever, but like that's the devil that like it's like mocking the good stuff, the Lord, mocking.
Yes.
I don't want to get too religious, but like,
Sunday.
Yeah, it is Sunday. I should have went to church today, but I watched football instead, and that was my church. But anyways, I just feel like it is a real sad time now, and we just got to appreciate that stuff. It's cool to see guys obviously honoring these people too, because we saw how much money was raised for Jeff Dickerson. It's still being raised for Jeff Dickerson. Like
I heard on the radio this morning, it was over $1.1 million for Jeff Dickerson's son that was raised, and counting. It hasn't stopped. Yeah,
absolutely incredible. And his son now, I mean, obviously it's not going to be easy growing up without a dad, and obviously
mom.
his mom either. Like it's just you feel for the kid. Everybody does, obviously, but now he can at least look back when he gets older and be like, wow, my dad left this much of an impact or this much of a legacy on the world and around Chicago or just sports in general.
That kid's going to go on to do great things. Like, I don't know what he's into. I don't know if he's into the same things that his dad was or if he wants to go into science or politics or whatever, but that kid he's set up for life, and he's going to you guys will like this analogy, almost like a Bruce Wayne type situation where it's going to like, it sucks obviously that this happened, but I think like it's going to mold him into a great adult and a very high functioning member of society.
100%, man. Like you take these, like it's almost like a not a lesson, but it's like it gives you more of an appreciation for life and gives you more of an appreciation for like what you have, what you had, and something you can look up to. It's like a model, something you can model your life after. And
yeah.
Definitely, I think he's going to turn out to be like, a superhero or something like that.
Yeah,
like
some superhero type shit.
Yeah, he's going to do some crazy stuff. So, but yeah, I know we got a little bit like, touchy feely there for a minute, and I'm sure Ron probably has some thoughts too. But like, I think it's well warranted when you have stuff like this happen, to at least discuss it.
Absolutely. And a lap pop into the comments here. He says, apparently Parker Dickerson is a very good baseball player, according to Jeff's colleagues. So it could be a ball player someday. And maybe that is his path, and maybe that's where he gets. But yeah,
I look forward to him on the Cubs.
Yeah, right. Former or future Cub, Parker Dickerson. But yeah, I mean, it was sad. I mean, I remember like for John Madden and looking back on it now, obviously he was an incredible coach, before he was ever a broadcaster. But in our lives and in our time, he was the broadcaster, right? He was, the prime time. I feel like he was like one of the first ones too to really bring that kind of like super over analysis with like the telestrator. I feel like he was kind of the first guy to really ever do that, because he'd be like, and here the boom, you're right, the boom, the classic boom that became so famous, like. That's what he started in, and it was entertaining to listen to him speak and talk football. Like I feel like kind of today's John Madden right now in the broadcasting game to me is like a Tony Romo, right? Like a guy that just knows the game so well because of playing it at the highest level, or in Madden's case, coaching it at the highest level. Like he left an impact on football. I mean, if nothing else, obviously the video game, people are like, well, it's just a video game, but it's what that video game meant. Right? Because out of everybody in football at the time when Madden was originally released as a video game, they picked John Madden. And they didn't call it. Look at all these other games. MLB The Show, NBA. They all use the name of the league. NFL is the only one that uses a coach to honor him and what he did for football as the name of the game. It is Madden. It's not NFL. I know it's technically NFL Madden, but when you look at the little name on the game like box, it's
Madden.
Not. Yeah, it's Madden. It's Madden. It's Madden. Whatever.
No one even says NFL. They just say Madden.
Everybody just says Madden, and you know exactly what you're talking about. So I think that, if nothing else, too, that is a testament to the mark that he left on the game. And then, obviously for Jeff Dickerson, I admittedly can't go too deep into it because my mom had cancer. Bdon, I know your lovely mother is battling the terrible disease right now. So I'll start crying mid-podcast if I go too deep into this. But certainly a tough loss, like you guys said. I mean, he was a staple in Chicago sports for years. And it's been really cool, I think, seeing the pouring of love, though, from Chicago. Like for his son. And you saw Adam Schefter, kind of tweeting all the like people who were donating, right? Like the Bears donated, like as an organization, the Blackhawks, the Cubs,
I think the Packers,
the Green Bay Packers donated to the fund. Like
that goes to show you the type of person. Yeah,
exactly. So if that doesn't show
respect for him, love for him. Yeah.
So, it's like you guys said, I'm rooting for Parker Dickerson to be able to do something great, and hopefully he continues to feel that support from the city of Chicago because of the impact that his dad had on so many people here in this city. And Dan Reeves, I mean, just another, like you said, another just legitimate head coach that will, be remembered for those, like you said, those Falcons teams, like those early Falcons teams in the early part of their existence. And I know like they've been around for a while, but they were really bad for a long time. Let's just be a spade. Like until Bdon got there, they were bad. They had like maybe 1 or 2 really decent seasons in Atlanta, and that was about it. But once like Dan Reeves got there, like the Falcons kind of became fun for football, right? Because you had the Dirty Bird Falcons, like Alap says here in the comments from earlier, Super Bowl 33 with Jamal Anderson and Chris Chandler against the Broncos. And then, that continues in Reeves's career to eventually Michael Vick, and you had Warwick Dunn, and you had, there was a lot of really good players that rolled through Atlanta under Dan Reeves. So, like you said, unfortunately that it comes in threes, but just a hell of a week, not only for the Chicago football landscape, but just for the NFL football landscape as a whole, with 3 really, impactful people in their various kind of roles and positions throughout the sports history, to be gone. Some, obviously later in life, and some gone way too soon, as Jeff was. He was only 44. So certainly thinking about all their friends and family and everybody that they touched, because it's always tough when you're mourning the loss of somebody that had such an impact on your life.
Yeah, and for me, on a lighter side, for John Madden, I'm going to go to the movie Little Giants and to one play in specific. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but the annexation of Puerto Rico. That is always going to be like one of the funniest like childhood movie memories that I have. And it happened to be John Madden. Remember he gets off the bus and he's like, I think like his team bus broke down or something, and he helps the kids out with coaching. And then too, it's like, playing Madden as a kid and being such a big football fan, Madden taught me who all the players in the league were.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I was always ratting off stats and saying stuff. And like, obviously I watched a lot of ESPN and stuff, but when you're playing Madden all the time as a kid and you see, the 3rd or 4th cornerback or the backup safety that plays for the Eagles or the Ravens or something, you remember those names. And then like you watch the games and you see those players. And I can accredit, being so in tune with who all the players were at such a young age to playing Madden. And I don't like to be like, there's a lot of people that complain about Madden. Obviously it's a monopoly as far as football games. It's the only game we can buy, so it is what it is. But I really miss the Madden from when we were growing up to where Madden was calling the game while you were playing.
Yes.
And he really did a good job at teaching young people the game of football through that. And it was kind of like one of those teary-eyed moments. I think Kobe was a moment that I definitely cried for a sports figure that died. But, John Madden, his impact, the level that he left on the game of football is immeasurable. And like I said, he's one of the like all-time football guys, whether it's a coach, a player, an announcer. He just happened to have multiple different roles, and he left that level of impact. For Jeff Dickerson, I would hear him when he would call in on like the sports radio, Chicago, like ESPN or like 670 and stuff. And I would always end up reading his articles because he was the ESPN correspondent. So it was sad to see someone that you don't feel like you know them, but you get so much information from them. And like, that is in essence, as a regular Bears fan and someone that you would call our source. And to see just so abruptly for that to happen. Obviously, I didn't know about his wife prior to that. And then, like we talked about ad nauseum already, his son, Parker. It's a very terrible situation. And I'm happy to see and elated to see the way that the support has been able to rally around him. And then a little Star Wars action. And then Dan Reeves, such an electric like era of Atlanta Falcon football, like you said, Ron, while he was the coach there. And he was a great coach in this league. I'm not sure if he's in the Hall of Fame or if that's something that may happen down the road, but he is definitely an Atlanta Falcon legend. Not as much of a memory for a personal level, but I just remember him taking a shot on a kid that at the time there wasn't anything else like him in this league. And it was a bet that he took on Michael Vick, and it ended up paying off. The kid was phenomenal throughout his career as an Atlanta Falcon and one of the most, if not the most electric quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. So shout out to Dan Reeves for taking a shot on Michael Vick and having such great success in Atlanta. But back to our Bears. Let's reel back in. We got a little off the wagon here today, but like we said, saw a little bit of everything. Saw defensive turnovers. You saw great production from the passing game. One thing we haven't talked about is Darnell Mooney. He's catching damn near everything today, and he played a really good game. Cole Kmet played all right. David Montgomery, another good game. I think he probably would have been close to around 100 yards total with rushing and receiving, but he had another productive day. And on to Minnesota, but for offensive player of the game, who would you say takes the cap for you, Joey?
Oh, offensive player of the game. I don't know. I mean, I guess I want to give it to Montgomery, but I guess I'll give it to Mooney. Like, Mooney really was catching everything, and he had that first touchdown offensively, I believe, right? That was the first offensive.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns today total, yeah.
And I guess it was the only offensive touchdown. I don't know why I said the first offensive. It was the only the defense didn't score. So I know that
Joey,
I bet on the defense score.
I was going to say, don't try to do the reverse psychology to think that the defense scored, because I assure you they did not. They should have.
I was trying to make myself believe that because I really wanted it to happen the whole game. But no, he had the first touchdown. That really got the tone set. You know, I mean, the defense did the job of setting the tone, but I think that first score was huge, and it's pretty much like you said, Bdon, earlier. The game was over after the first score, so, and it really felt that way. So that for me, offensively, I'll go with Mooney.
And then what about defense?
Defense, man. I mean, I'm gonna take the cop out because I can't say I called it, but like I took it as my guy for the preview, right? Like I said, he's gonna break the record this week. And not that like it's like a hot take or anything. I think we all kind of thought, I had a chance to
look at you and your hot takes, Joey.
Boy, I've been eating these Takis.
You have been saying all season, though, or at least since you've been on the show, that the Robert Quinn sack is there's about 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Robert Quinn tackling your quarterback in the backfield on a Sunday afternoon.
Pretty much feels that way. It pretty much feels that way. So Robert Quinn, man, why the fuck not? He broke 2 records today, and we already mentioned those. So
yeah,
and it felt like he literally could have had about 5 sacks in this game, and one of them he got obviously taken away from him because Mike Glennon decided to have like a big boy moment where he just like quick little flip as he's getting taken down. The other one was a penalty. So
one final one. This is a fun one, and then we'll get to Ron. It's Matt Nagy's funeral today on this episode of Bears on Tap. Final word for the skipper, for the former head coach.
Sayonara. Hope to see you never. As far as like in a football realm, like good luck at Presbyterian. Hopefully you can go to culinary art school and learn how to cook. And hey man, we actually had a fun 2018, but since then it's been kind of garbage. So. I feel bad for you. I do think you are a good person. Like in that sense, I do feel bad for you. I know you spoke very kindly of, like people like Jeff Dickerson, and you were good with the media, and like that's well appreciated to me, even as a fan. I like a coach that can. I mean, he's kind of a shitbag in the way that he talks to the media. Like he does the same thing over and over again, but he has been a nice guy. But yeah, sayonara. Hope to see you never again in the NFL.
Ron, for you, offensive, defensive, and then some final parting words for one Matthew Nagy.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, I'm actually gonna give it. I'm actually gonna give it to Andy Dalton. I got to give some props to Andy Dalton. I think
rifle.
I think he played a good game. I mean, I know the numbers aren't spectacular. 173 yards on 18 of 35 throwing, I believe, was the final stat. But he made some nice throws, and we talked about it very briefly when we got on right away. I said something that I was incredibly impressed with in today's game was after that safety with 58 seconds left essentially in the game.
Yeah.
Being able to turn around and march down the field and at least get in the field goal range and add another 3 points. So that's essentially a free 5 points that they wouldn't have gotten had they, New York gotten at least a couple yards, punted it away, and the Bears just said, Uncle, we'll go to half because we get the ball after the half. I mean, that's a quick 5-point swing that, again, if the game was a lot closer, it probably would have meant a lot more. But I think it's the in-principle part of it. And a lot of that had to do with some of the throws that Dalton made. Dalton made some really nice throws today. I think on the flea flicker to Bird, I mean, he had to put that over the linebacker and under the corner. I mean, that is a hard throw to make. He connected nearly a couple times. I think there was a couple of times too where like his receivers just didn't run the right route or something. Like, I remember one of the incompletions to Jimmy Graham down the sideline. Like it looked like Graham stopped running. I think he had the right read, him being Andy Dalton. I think he had the right read and probably could have hit Graham maybe for a touchdown had he broken the tackle of the safety that was coming over the top. So I think overall, Andy Dalton had a nice game, especially for not playing last week, stepping back in. He looked really good today. So I got to give him props where it's due. Do I think he's a Bear next year? No, but for sake of now, he is a Bear, and I'll give him his props there. Defensively, I'm going to give Eddie Jackson a lot of love. Tied for second in total tackles today with 8. He had 5 solos. He also had a tackle for a loss. A guy that, Joey, like you said, I'm going to give you your props here. You know, you really said it. Like all these people coming out, oh, Eddie doesn't tackle. Eddie doesn't tackle. Eddie's not the same player he was. Eddie's playing a different role in this defense right now because he doesn't have that box safety guy like Amos was before he departed for Green Bay to really kind of back him up and allow him to play that center field that he was playing in his first 2 years in the NFL. I really think right now that Eddie Jackson is just doing whatever he's asked of, and he's showing he's a complete safety. I think they would really benefit bringing in a more physical safety to allow him to play that center field where he is so good. I think that really helps just the Bears secondary as a whole as well. But he's stepping up and getting the job done. And he should have another fucking touchdown today, but refs with quick whistles on the forward progress. So we joked about it. He tweeted about it. You know, 4 touchdowns taken away in the last 2, or 4 touchdowns taken away, 3 in the last 2 years, 2 against the same team. You know, he just keeps getting robbed. So, I mean, Eddie Jackson continue to be a playmaker. He's my defense player of the game. And then Matt Nagy, parting words. Again, like you guys said, he is a nice guy, you know, and I hope for his coaching career and coaching sake that he goes somewhere and maybe pans out. Maybe he has to go put in a little more time and effort as an offense coordinator before he gets another shot as a head coach. He's still pretty young, though. Like he's got a lot of years left in football if he wants it. And I think he's a guy that in the right situation, you know, can do well. Yeah, maybe it is Presbyterian.
Wisconsin Whitewater.
He can do well in the right
situation.
You're
actually pretty solid, Bdon.
They are. They are very good. Wisconsin Whitewater is a very good program. But I think it really was just one of those things where for sake of what the Bears needed at the time, he wasn't the right fit. I can't totally blame him for that either. But at the same time, you know, like kind of what Joey said, hey, you know, it was fun while it lasted. I mean, obviously that 2018 season was a blast. It just sucks that they couldn't follow it up with something better in 19 or 20, or at least something comparable.
Just anything, literally anything.
Yeah, literally anything other than 2 first-round playoff exits that we knew they weren't going to do anything with anyway, or 1 playoff round, and that was only because they extended to 17.
I mean, dude, they had us in the goddamn Nickelodeon game, bro.
Yeah, right. We were in the Nickelodeon game, and
we were the joke playoff.
Yep. More or less. Well, because it was the joke playoff game because the Bears had no business being there. But nonetheless, I'm ready for a fresh start. I think Nagy probably is too at this point after all the fire Nagy chants this season. So, you know, we'll say sayonara to him. And Alap says his parting words for Nagy are he hopes that you build a better team as the leader at McDonald's. You looked ready for it in the commercial. So
terrible. For me,
he'll never get another commercial unless he like.
No, yeah, he definitely ain't getting no more ads. Maybe if he did well, if he was a Chicago legend, he would have ended up on the billboard next to Urlacher because they would have found a way to get him some hair.
Rogaine, yeah. Some he could have joined those like 9 Urlacher billboards like on that stretch of 294 before you get to O'Hare.
Well, Ian Happ has now made his way onto the said billboards.
Bro, he could have been a Chicago legend forever on those Rogaine billboards or whatever it is.
Facts, dude. You realize Ditka is still getting commercials with Bet Rivers at like 92 years old.
Ooh, Ditka's doing Benny's Beverage Depot too. Yeah. Like
Ditka is
Benny's, whatever.
You win in Chicago. You don't leave Chicago because the money just keeps coming.
Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
But for me, for offense, I'm going.
Wait. Speaking of, sorry, Bdon, I don't want to cut you off. You know who could do that and could stick around Chicago for a long, long time and make a shit ton of money and stick here forever? Roquan Smith. That's a guy.
They need to pay him.
They need to pay him.
That's a Bears problem. The Bears don't pay anyone. That's a problem that we'll discuss further in the offseason. But yeah, that's top of the pecking order for what the Bears need to do right underneath getting a new head coach is getting him a Brinks truck to wherever a Brinks truck with fucking a Bella Danger in the back, like making it rain on herself. Like, I don't know.
I'll drive the Brinks truck with him in the passenger. I'll be like a cab driver. Just come on.
You feel me? Like a Bella Danger just chilling in the back of the Brinks truck waiting on it. But yeah, on offense,
sitting at the drop-off spot with the red carpet just rolled out.
I swear to God. On offense, I'm gonna go with Darnell Mooney. I think like you can look at his production with so many different quarterbacks so far in his career, and he just continues to answer the call. And one of the good Ryan Pace finds in the draft, late in the draft, and I think like he is going to continue to bud into a star once we have a competent offense in place for him to, play well in. And on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Travis Gibson, 2 sacks. Again, Travis Gibson is one of those players on the Bears that looks like they're having so much fun being in the NFL and being, a professional football player. And he just, every single time they pan to him, he's got the biggest smile on his face. He's out there making plays. He's having fun doing it. And the players around him are also making plays off of him. So it's a win-win. And I can tell that guy's going to be a fan favorite here in Chicago for years to come. And then parting words for my Matt Nagy eulogy, I guess you will. 2018 was a lot of fun. It was a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of fireworks, and a lot of hope. And as we talk about on this podcast, 98% of being a sports fan is that hope that better days are ahead. And we took 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward to take 2 steps back. And unfortunately, we're in a worse spot. I wouldn't say a worse spot, but in a similar spot to where we are when we got you, and we don't have anything to show for it. So unfortunately, it's time for Matt Nagy to go. Like you guys said, great person. Seemed like he was well received by the team and by people in the Chicagoland area if you take out the performance-based part of his job. But in the NFL, you have to perform to keep your job, and he simply did not do that. So wish him nothing but the best in whatever he goes into next, whatever coaching position or advisor or whatever it may be. But unfortunately, fortunately, it is no longer with our Chicago Bears. And with that being said, do you guys have any final wrap-up thoughts for our 29-6 victory over the Giants and Matt Nagy D-Day?
No, I mean, I guess I'll just read this from a lap, though, real quick. Interesting Nagy stat. Just came across Twitter. Against non-playoff teams, 27-12 and 23.9 points per game. Against playoff teams, can't see the bottom part of that. I think it's 7 and
18 and 17.2 points per game. And he follows that up with a quick woof, not great luck.
Yeah, so, I mean, pretty much sums it up. And kind of like to your guys' point, I mean, I joke around about the Presbyterian thing. He will get a job somewhere, and maybe it's in college to start off. Maybe he'll come back as like a quarterbacks coach in the NFL. Maybe he'll be an offensive coordinator somewhere. He will get a job because he is a likable guy off the field. And I mean, even the players, like we've heard so many good things from guys like David Montgomery, guys like, these guys talk well about him on the forefront because there is no bad blood between him and the players. He will get a job. Guys like that get jobs because, he's a pretty good mind. It's just he cannot call games to save his life. And he's trying to run an offense that was basically taught to him, but he cannot translate it he can't translate the offense and instill it and make it his own and kind of build off of that. It's basically like him just trying to run something that somebody else taught him and then sticking with what he first had success with and then not ever growing from there. So that's kind of where the Bears, I feel like, that's what's been the downfall this whole time, and him being conservative and him making the wrong decisions in games. It's been all of that. It's been a buildup of things. So, I don't want to sound like I'm just like completely this Nagy hater. I gave him a long time to prove me wrong, to prove me right even. I backed him for a while. So, but I guess it just comes a point in time where, hey, man, it's your time. Like, you just got to move on. You got to try to find a job somewhere else, and you will find a job somewhere else and just grow from there, come back stronger, I guess.
Sayonara, as you said, Ron, for you.
Yeah, just quickly before my final thought, I want to share this too because I think this is interesting. It goes along with what Joey was just saying about Nagy getting another job from our friend Alap. Again, as always, there was a rumor that Vic Fangio could replace Pat Shurmur with Nagy if Fangio stays in Denver. Not sure how legit, but Benjamin Albright retweeted it. So an interesting concept, but again, but like you said, he's going to get another job. He is a very likable guy, and really in any kind of workplace that you work in, 90% of it is if you're likable, you're going to stay around. Like you're going to get, you're going to get another job. Even if you don't work in your area of the company that you're in, they'll find another place for you if you're likable and easy to work with. And it seems like Nagy is that guy behind closed doors. And I'm not questioning his character as a person. I just question how he calls a football game. That's all that, we're questioning here. But I think my final thoughts is 2093 looks really nice on paper. It was a nice win today. I think we as Bears fans continue to see the pieces that this team can build around going into the future, right? Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson, Travis Gibson, Robert Quinn's nice to have here right now at this point in his career. Larry Borum had a really nice game at right tackle today. I think, again, another piece that was a late round find. Darnell Mooney, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert. We're seeing that Chicago is probably going to be the most preferred destination for a new head coach because it's probably the best situation to go to of those looking for new head coaches. I would say outside of maybe Denver if Fangio was let go. Those are probably the two best right now because you already have what
I would still take ours because we at least have like a promising quarterback.
We have a promising guy that could be a franchise quarterback, and I completely agree with that. And I think, that is something that the right coach and hopefully, I pray to God they get that right, but that's going to be intriguing. Somebody's going to want to come in and work with Justin Fields. Somebody's going to want to come in knowing they have weapons already here. And then if they can get a general manager, if it's not Pace, to come in and fill in some of those holes, whether it's through free agency or whether it's through the draft or both, this Bears team in a very short amount of time, if Justin Fields is developed correctly, could be a very good team and a sustainable team. Again, if done correctly. So I think that's just kind of where I'm at right now is, hey, today showed that the Bears is still is going to be a preferred destination for a new head coach. Let's just pray to God they get the answer right because as we've seen in the past, they tend to get it wrong more than they do get it right. So that's my final thoughts for today's win.
Yeah, and I think that was perfectly said. I never really looked at it like that because Matt Nagy's made us look like such a shitstorm the last few years, but it is a better situation for a new head coach to come into. And we got one more game left of this season, and then it's all eyes on that head coaching vacancy, on what we're going to be doing in the draft and what the future free agent signings of this team will be. But there is no reason on God's green earth why we can't go out and beat the Minnesota Vikings next week. We'll be back with you guys in the middle of the week to preview that game, and then obviously on the other side of the game to hopefully recap another Bears win so I can keep the "we're going" streaking in our name. But the Bears, again, have won a second week in a row, 29-3 against the New York Giants. Robert Quinn broke the single-season sack record. Roquan Smith broke the single-season tackle record. Whole lot of fun out there at Soldier Field. We look forward to being back with you guys next week to get ready for Vikings week. We got nothing else for you guys, and Bdon.
Bdon.
Bdon.